Welcome to The Explainer. We all have this picture-perfect image of Japan's cherry blossoms, right? Well, today, we're going to peel back those beautiful petals and uncover a secret history that you probably never expected.
I mean, when you think of Japan in the springtime, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's that classic image, right? A sea of pink cherry blossoms, or Sakura, with these big, fun outdoor parties happening right underneath them.
You've got these bustling parties, people drinking out in public, just surrounded by these incredible pink petals. This is what modern hanami, or flower viewing, is all about. But believe it or not, it wasn't always like this. Scenes like this, you can even see them in old woodblock prints, but the story of how we got here, it is full of surprises.
All right, Section 1, Before the Blossom Was King. Okay, let's jump right in. Our story actually starts more than 1,000 years ago, and back then, a totally different flower was the star of the show.
So hard to believe, right? But way back in the ancient Nara period, the flower that everyone who was anyone wanted to admire, it wasn't Sakura, it was the plum blossom, or ume. See, the plum was this chic import from China, a real symbol of high culture. The native cherry blossom, it was kind of seen as, well, rustic, a little unsophisticated. If you look at the most famous poetry collection of the time, the Manyoshu, poems about plums totally outnumber poems about cherries. They were the real symbol of spring. From royals to revelers. So you have to wonder, how did this humble native flower end up stealing the spotlight? Well, its rise to fame is an awesome story. It's about cultural independence and, believe it or not, a shogun who really knew how to throw a party.
Okay, so this big shift really kicked off during the Heian period. Japan started looking inward, trying to define its own unique culture, separate from all the Chinese influence. And the native Sakura, it became a perfect symbol for this new national identity. It got so popular, in fact, that the famous plum tree at the Imperial Palace was actually replaced with a cherry tree. That's a huge deal.
And this is where we get to the part of hanami that, let's be honest, really fascinates people from overseas. The public drinking and the big parties. It's pretty unique, right? But what's so interesting is that these huge, lively gatherings, they weren't always a thing. Actually, this whole tradition has a very specific starting point.
Okay, so get this. The guy who basically started the party was Shogun Tokugawa Yoshimune. In the middle of the Edo period, he had this idea to create recreational spaces for everybody, not just the aristocrats. So he planted these huge groves of cherry trees in public spots all over Edo, which is now Tokyo, and just opened them up. And just like that, hanami transformed. It went from being this refined, quiet pastime for the elite to this massive, loud, fun festival for everyone, packed with food, sake, and dancing. He basically invented the modern hanami party.
All right, next up, the clone that conquered Japan. So now the story takes a really surprising, almost sci-fi kind of twist. Because here's a crazy fact. If you've ever seen cherry blossoms in Japan, chances are you've actually been looking at the work of one single tree.
This tree is a special hybrid called the Soma Yoshino. It was cultivated by some very clever gardeners back in the 19th century in a village that's now part of Tokyo. And it was a total game changer. Why? Well, it grows super fast, and its beautiful pale pink flowers all bloom at once, before the leaves come out. That creates this incredible dense cloud of pink. It was an instant hit.
So how did this one type of tree take over the entire nation? It wasn't some big government project. It was something much more personal. It was about people's feelings. You see, in the Meiji era, new railway lines were connecting the whole country. And people in towns all over Japan, they wanted to feel connected to the modern, trendy capital, Tokyo. So what did they do? They planted Tokyo's favorite tree, the Soma Yoshino, in their own hometowns. It was a way of bringing a piece of the capital back home with them.
And here is the absolute craziest part. Every single one of the millions of Soma Yoshino trees you see today is a clone. They are all genetically identical, all of them descended from that one original hybrid tree from Tokyo. It's just mind-blowing when you think about it.
Okay, but the story of Sakura goes even deeper than history and horticulture. It has a spiritual side, and for that, we need to travel to the sacred mountains of Yoshino, which is really the spiritual heartland of the cherry blossom.
For centuries, poets have tried to capture the magic of this place. Imagine mountains just completely covered in this sea of blossoms. We're talking about an incredible 30,000 trees with over 200 different varieties. It looks like snow, just like the ancient poet Kino Tomonori wrote. But here's the thing, these trees weren't planted just to look pretty.
The real reason for this breathtaking sight is actually religious.
It all goes back to a 7th century mystic named En no Yoja. He founded this unique faith called Shugendo, which blends mountain worship, Shinto, and Buddhism. The legend says he prayed for 1,000 days on a nearby mountain until this fierce deity appeared to him. He was so moved that he carved the image of the deity out of the wood of a cherry tree. And ever since then, his followers have seen the cherry tree as sacred, planting them on the mountains of Yoshino as an act of faith.
So you see, the blossoms here are so much more than just beautiful flowers. They're a sacred offering. It's a tradition that has been continuing for over 1,300 years. Every single blossom you see in Yoshino is part of this living, breathing religious tradition. It adds a whole other layer to it, doesn't it?
So when you put it all together, from a simple, rustic wildflower to a sacred religious icon, to the centerpiece of a nationwide party and a symbol of modern Japan, the story of the Sakura has really mirrored the nation's own incredible journey.
So is the cherry blossom just a flower, or is it a mirror, reflecting Japan's own story of transformation back to itself? What started out as just a pretty thing to look at now holds this incredibly complex history of culture, faith, and national identity. And it makes you wonder, what will it come to mean next?